Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. And today's voice is the one and only Tom Hames, who's also known as Evolution Fitness. And he is, of course,
training, but close enough.
Oh, Evolution Training. And
it's all right, everyone. It's either Evolution Training or Evolution Coaching or Evolution Fitness. Everyone's always like, what? Well, training, yeah. Because I didn't want to be another like trained by so-and-so or a coached by so-and-so. That kind of wasn't my vibe. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have something just different. So
yeah, for sure. And I would certainly say that you've come up into being one of the UK's leading bodybuilding coaches. And for me, you know, being on the radar and seeing so many different coaches come and go, it was like, where has this person come from? And of course, we haven't spoken before asking you to come on the podcast, but it'd be super cool to hear about where you started your own bodybuilding journey and how that transformed into coaching.
Yeah, sure, we can talk about that. So for me specifically, my bodybuilding journey essentially started when I was around about 14, 15, and I started lifting weights in my bedroom, as a lot of people do. And the reason I was doing it wasn't for sort of self or sort of development or anything like that. It was because I was a swimmer and a sprint swimmer, and I was doing karate and stuff on the side as well, and a little bit of rugby at school. And mainly the swimming was the thing, because I think the karate I was very much slowly phasing out of it. I'm not talking about your little Saturday morning lessons or whatever. I was doing proper full contacts, like sparring and training with black belts, and I was Midlands champion in karate and stuff like that for once, and then I got a second place at one. But that was like kumite, so that was sparring. We scored like a point system, so I needed to be quick and strong and stuff. And I kind of got that, even though that was phasing out, I still wanted to be stronger for it. And then swimming, I kind of needed to, because I was a sprint swimmer, so it's like 50 meters and 100 meters. So I kind of developed like, quite some structure and shape, and like I looked like a really, really shit, natty men's physique guy. Like that's what I look like from just lifting at home, and like, just being like doing 4 sessions of swimming a week and, 1 or 2 of karate or whatever. So I was doing enough sport that it was some muscular development for me. So especially going through puberty as well. So I was doing all of that, and then I got straight into weights, started lifting. I know the weights slowly started taking over a bit, and I liked seeing the change in my physique and stuff. I started watching a few videos. I watched Pumping Iron like illegally on my laptop one night, and I watched like Ronnie Coleman's old videos, like training videos and stuff, and bits and bobs like that. And I started being like, oh wow, this is amazing. These guys have got some crazy muscle. So I just thought like, okay, well, I'm just going to start lifting and just training, right? And just doing bits at home. Then my buddy had like an old gym shed sort of thing that we used to go down to in the summer holidays, and I train there on the weekends. And then we ended up going to a leisure centre, and my mum and dad like paid for like a leisure centre membership for me, and I would train there. So I would do like, I would do bits and bobs with their dumbbells and stuff. And eventually I realized like I was getting kind of, a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger. And I was certainly like overtaking a lot of my mates who were training with weights as well, because I was super just smashing it, like consistent with my training. But I would train everything, like I would hit my legs and stuff, even at home and things, like even though they weren't. And I would kind of do like an upper body sort of split one day, then they might do some lower body, then some back, and then some. So I was kind of roughly developing that. And then my food, I wasn't eating like, any specific diet. I wasn't tailoring my nutrition, but I was kind of just eating a lot of calories as a teenage young lad, like a hungry lad. So a lot of carbohydrates, protein and fats all in one, just as much as I could kind of get in one day sort of thing. So I used to, I used to absolutely, I used to raid the fridges. So, and that kind of got me a lot bigger. And because I was kind of doing some expenditure alongside it as well with the swimming and stuff, I stayed relatively trim as well. I didn't turn into like a marshmallow. And then eventually the swimming kind of got phased out. So do you know Adam Peaty? Do you know the Olympic gold medalist from the UK, Adam Peaty?
No.
So he used to train, he's a breaststroke. He's like got the world record for like breaststroke in 50 meters, 100 meters or something. He's ridiculous. But I used to train with him, and then he kind of moved up and was doing like 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. And I was just like, I don't fucking want to do that. Like, so I kind of moved, because my mum, she was a swimming instructor. She told me, she's like, oh, you'll have to do that. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to. So I kind of moved towards just like phased it out. I was going twice a week, maybe. I'd do little bits and bobs here and there, but then I would mainly be just doing like the gym and training. And then eventually that took over, and then I was just like weight training like fully. Like, I started training for my first bodybuilding show at 16. I competed at 18. So, yeah, so I started competing at 18. That was NABBA, back when NABBA was actually like a proper federation and not like a bag of shit like it is now. So I trained, yeah, I did that, did the Midlands. There was like 4 of us in the class. I got like dead last, I looked flash. I didn't really know how to diet. I wasn't really eating very well. I was kind of like, I'd do like 3 or 4 days of like 0 carb, and then I'd be like eating some shit, and then I'd be like, oh, I'll do some carbs today, and then I'll like just go back to like, so I was eating like fish and green veg, beef and green veg, chicken and green veg, and then I'd have like egg whites and stevia, and that would be like my meals that I'd eat in a day. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, really bad. I just had no clue. So I kind of made like every mistake under the sort of sun, really. And over time, from like, you know, 16 all the way through, so I started properly training about 15, but I started taking it seriously with bodybuilding stuff, with new protein and content and stuff like that at 16. And then it just kind of went from there. So I got all the way up to, you know, university. I went to university, competed when I was at uni, did the same show again, but when I was 20, so 2 years later. I won that one. I won at that time. That was cool. Then I did a few more. I either like placed like dead last, or I won the show. It was kind of weird. Like, so I'd done like maybe like 8 shows, I think, maybe 7 or 8 shows. So then, yeah, so it was good because I just kind of was prepping myself for a lot of it. I had a coach, you know, and a friend sort of overseeing stuff as well. But there's bits that I would kind of take and change and adjust for myself and whatever and do things. So I was learning like what worked and what didn't, loads of things like that. And I would always like remember it and piece it down. But I was on like the bodybuilding forums a lot. Yeah. So I don't know if you would know about these. So basically, like, bodybuilding forums back in the day were brutal, to the point where if you said, do you know how people say like something online and it's not the right information and it's not got any backing, it's not got any backing with their physique or whatever. And nowadays you have a few comments like that are like just bullshit, and then stuff that's just like, and then one person that have a little go at them going like, you don't really look like you know what you're on about, and what you're saying doesn't make sense. Imagine that, but fucking 20 times worse, with everyone jumping on you. So you say one thing that's out of line, one thing that doesn't make sense, they would just fucking go in on you. And I learned the hard way from that. Like, I learned to just keep my mouth shut and just read and learn until you're at a point where you could ask it. But even if you ask questions, like even if you asked a question that was like slightly stupid, they would go in on you. So you had to really, I remember spending 30 minutes writing out a question one time because I wanted it to come out properly. So you had to really, and these were guys that were like, this was a lot in the States and the UK at that top level competitors in the UK BFF, but usually the States. So there was one forum I went on a lot called Professional Muscle, and I kind of learned more and more about it. And then there was one that was really interesting because you know, one, you know, dude on there, and he was like 18 and he was already like blasting gear. And I was like, fucking hell, like these guys are doing this already. So I'd done my competition. I went on stuff after my first show. I did my first show on stuff, had a coach overseeing me for that one. So I kind of learned a bit more about like dieting from him. Did that one, and then kind of from there, obviously did a few more and kind of developed and got better and, you know, improved and stuff. But then as I worked my way through, I kind of got into a point where I'm a very realistic person, and I was looking at myself and I was like, do you know what? I'm not gonna do anything really with my bodybuilding. Like, I'm not really at the level of structure. Like, I can grow very, very easily. Like, if I sit down and I put my time in with my food, I'm training, I know what training works for me. Like, if I'm doing all of that, I can grow and put tissue in quite nicely. So basically, I kind of had a mate of mine who was coached by the same coach as me, and that coach that we had just disappeared. He just like basically just quit bodybuilding and was like, no, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. And I was like, okay. He was in like 9 or 10 grand's worth of debt as well, with like credit cards and stuff. So I think he just kind of, his personal training wasn't paying for it, so he needed to just go and get a job basically. Yeah, he was mad. He was like, do you know like the champagne lifestyle with like the with like the shitty fucking sort of income or whatever? He was like trying to live that, and it was really evident to us eventually. Yeah, so basically he asked me, he was like, Tom, would you oversee me? Would you help me out? And I was like, yeah, I can do, that's fine. So I helped him out. We were off-seasoning for a little bit, then he dieted for a show. So he dieted for this competition. He dieted for probably about 6-7 weeks. He didn't stick to everything I told him to do, but he did the most part of it. He got on stage. He won the junior class very comfortably. He won the open class very comfortably. He then moved from then, did the overall, got like third in the overall or something. It was like a wee, like pee-wee sort of standalone show. And then we went from there. Then we did maybe did one more. Then his friend Molly, she signed up with me. I helped her for 𝗃𝗃. She won that. He won the junior class. Then there was a couple of others that kind of just people that kind of just sort of who saw that I was working with him. So a few people who asked me for some help and stuff, helped him. Then eventually it kind of developed into like, oh, okay, I might actually be able to do something with this. And I was working as a bouncer at the time, so the income was really, really rubbish. So this was good that it kind of helped on the side. I wasn't charging a lot. I think I was charging about £50 a month. I was kind of like getting people to sort of, I know, yeah. I'm 300 a month now, and now then I was charging about 50 a month. So it's really funny, but basically helping them out. Eventually, it just kind of developed. So more people came on board. Sarah eventually came on board. She was a friend of mine that I kind of met her sister, and then got speaking to obviously Sarah through her. And then like a few other people like kind of just sort of slowly picking into it. And then I got a kind of a good break with it. I got a guy called Brandon Hardings, who's got like millions of followers and stuff on Instagram and whatever. And he was kind of coming up through the YouTube and the Instagram for them. So I helped him. We won like a few shows. Then he did like what did he do? Body power, he did body power, so I helped him for that. He did body power, he did really well there, won that one, that's the first. And then it kind of just blew up. And like with him, obviously being, big name, he was really beneficial to my sort of my career. At least jump started a bit. I'd probably still be close to where I am now, but he definitely jump started it. And then more people on board. And then I was able to quit my job in security. And then I was just been full-time coaching sort of ever since. But yeah, I my own competitive bodybuilding has very much been sort of pushed to one side of it. And I still eat and train, and whatever, but I don't take it super seriously, compared to what the effort that I would put into coaching. Because you can't have it both ways as a coach, I find. Like, especially, well, you can. There is, the reason you see 𝗍𝗄𝗵, you see all these people like whatever, like guys who are doing, well, their bodybuilding has fucking blown out the window, and that's perfectly fine because they're looking after people where it actually matters. Like me working with Sarah, Jackie Eagles, Bran, one of my big guys, all the guys that I've worked with before, like these, I've got loads of people, like there's loads that I've worked with that are absolutely sick, and there's people that I work with now that are coming up, working way through the ranks, and it matters for me to put them through and put them first. Like me going, I've heard coaches do this as well, like, oh, sorry, I'm going to bed, I'll get back to your check-in, like I'll get back to your question later, for someone who's in the overall evening, and they're like, hey, I'm in the overall, I need to eat something, what should I eat? And he's like, I'm going to bed, mate, I'll talk to you later. Like I could not dream it. That's just not even a conscious thought in my head. Like I'm not an athlete before I'm a coach. I'm a coach before I'm an athlete, and that's why, without tooting my own horn, that's why I'm one of the best in the UK. I'm like I'd say there's like 3 to 5 of us who are at the kind of top spot, and I'm definitely within that realm. And the fact that like I'll put a lot of stuff behind my clients is one of the reasons why I'm able to do that. It's one of those things. So yeah, so my own bodybuilding kind of got pushed away, and that's okay. Like, I might compete in the future, but the stars kind of have to align. So then, but then I'm kind of more focused on my clients and what they're doing really now. Like I just want, all that sort of stuff. So.
I feel like as well, you made a very, very relevant point about, and what we're talking about today, we're going to go into speaking about amateur and pro divisions. Now, you notice that genetically, how far can you take your physique? And I feel like people don't realise.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. You coach as well, right? You coach people. So you've probably got a good eye for it straight away. So immediately you can look at a physique and go, okay, you can probably do this with your physique, but I'm not sure about that, and that. Now I can look at someone and I can determine where they're going to go, with their potential sort of thing. And whether they can make it literally all the way to the absolute pinnacle, or whether they are going to let's call it their Olympia, is winning the British finals, or top 3 at the British finals, or top 6 at the British finals. So my Olympia would be win a PCA novice class, right? And then get top 6 at the British finals. Hopefully do like a 3rd or 4th, but if I can get top 6, that's probably in a good lineup, and that's me done. I can't do better than that, I don't think. Okay, if I was going to try and scrape past that, the amount of drugs that I would have to take, the amount of effort and time that I'd have to put into it, and the amount of damage that I would do to my body would be far greater of a risk and a damage. It will cause damage than the benefit that I get out of it. Because if I was to say, go, I won the novice title at the British and being out there holding up that, you know, the gold trophy, whatever, everything, and then walking out of there with 10 years taken off my life, right? Or say like super heavyweights like IFBB. Say I was like top 4 in like a big fucking lineup. That would, you know, that would be taking years and years off my life for me to do it. The amount of stuff that I would have to take, the amount of weight that I would have to gain, you know, my body just won't do that. And even the end result would just be enough to scrape it, right? And that's like, and people need to be realistic about that. And it's okay to be realistic. You know, it's not defeatist. What is defeatist is not even trying to do something like that, if that's the goal that you want to go for. But have you found that, like, your own bodybuilding will have to take a bit of a backseat sometimes for clients? Have you found that it has to sometimes take a bit of a, you know, either a workout missed or this missed or a meal moved around or whatever, because you just need to look after someone, like in a certain way, like a coach or a client sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I peaked a client this year, and because we're in Thailand, the time difference, I had to stay up till 2 in the morning. And normally my sort of bedtime routine, it will be, you know, 9:30, 10, I'm clocking off, etc. But it's very, very difficult to get that work-life balance. You know, like if you're training and you know someone needs you, it's like you either got to step out or, like you say, miss a workout. But this is where the passion for coaching comes in, right? Like I can't just leave my phone if someone's messaged me, asked me for something.
No, that's it. No, not at all. And the thing is, the people who well, you can still be doing bodybuilding and do coaching at the same time, are the people who are not putting in as much effort as they actually could to their coaching, okay? Because they're being a bit thick about it, or they're not coaching enough people that it actually becomes a chore. Okay, get to 80 people, get to 85, get to 90, get to 100, and you will start to realize that it is fucking difficult to keep up with that many people's check-ins, making sure that you're available, checking up with them. Hey man, how you getting on? How's the blood work looking? Have you got it yet? Hey man, how's the cycle going? Has that injection site stopped swelling now? Hey, is that beef meal digesting properly now? Are you all right? How's everything with the family though? Is all, you know, you cannot maintain that level of checkup on someone unless you are fully committed to the craft and fully committed to the job of it. And if you aren't, and if you're more doing it to finance your bodybuilding in a cheap and easy way, well, an easier way to sit at home and do your work and then pay for your growth hormone, pay for your chicken, pay for your fucking rent, whatever, that's not going to cut it, and you won't make it to where I'm at, and you won't do it. You won't do it. They come before everything.
Coaching, certainly, and I'm sure you'll agree from what you've just said, you know, people do a bodybuilding show and suddenly they're a coach, and it does bring down the industry.
Yeah, but there might be 1,000 of those. There might be 5,000 of those people who are coaches who have done one show and then go, I can coach people now, I can make some money on this. There might be all of those, but shit sinks and cream floats to the top. So they can have it in their profile. They can spend $5,000 on advertising. I don't fucking care what they do. They aren't touching my clients. They aren't touching Callum's or Martin's or Dan Wellman's or, you know, Jace's or Jamie's, any of those guys, like coaching at that level, coaching consistent overalls, consistent wins. They're not getting a client to there because they know what they need to do it. Because they know what worked for them for their specific scenario of their bodybuilding show. They can't then extrapolate that onto other people and like nitpick stuff and little kinks and things that are wrong with things and whatever. They don't have it. They have a copy and paste format of what they were previously given and what they previously did to work. They do not have the ability to extrapolate. That comes from years within the sport.
And it's like that, you know, when you are going from amateur to if you are going to pro. So like before we jump, you know, you might be UK amateur and then PCA is definitely up and coming, right? So you may be...
Oh, absolutely. No, it's tough. Like especially the bikini classes, especially the men's physique classes, junior bodybuilding is fucking Welsh, like tough sometimes. And then sometimes it's quiet and sometimes it's like real strong. And then, you know, the men's open classes at the British finals are stacked. Yeah, they are stacked. Anyone who says they're not is living in a fucking dream world.
It's super cool that they are up and coming and, you know, going towards that. I know it's an IFBB, but it gives that option.
No, but here's the thing. If you take a class 1, class 2, or class 3 lineup with a PCA show at the British finals, and you put that next to the British finals lineup for two bros, like you're going to see some very, very close similarities and some similar physiques, especially within the UK. One of my guys, Kai Fletcher, he's like 280 on stage. He's like healed. He's huge. He's a fucking freak, right? He got second at the British with two bros, and then like I think third or second at the British with PCA. Like, so for us to do that, right? That doesn't mean that. It means that he's of a standard to be able to do both, and to do very, very well in both. Yeah. Again, take any of my other guys that I've sort of worked with this year, the IFBB guys or whatever guys people come close to find, stick them in the PCA show, they would be towards the top spots, absolutely. But that does mean that there are other people within the top spots who are potentially IFBB level competitors who are trying hard sort of on the way to those. Now, I think men's physique-wise and bikini-wise, there's a lot more crossover. And there's certainly different structures and physiques that are more suited towards IFBB, certainly the slightly bigger men's physique guys. But, again, amateur level within the UK, I would say honestly, it's a fucking very, very good increase in... It's kind of like two parts, isn't it? It's like one... Like the guys who are good are being constantly tested, so they've got to get better. And we've got guys and girls, obviously, guys and girls who are getting better. And the ones who are just coming up through the ranks and getting beginning, they're kind of doing the same thing. They're like, shit, I've got to be that good. Whoa, I need to put the time. So they're like chasing these guys who are like established, who are working it, and these guys who are coming in who are like, well, I want to do it. And yeah, some will drop off out of that bottom portion, and that can realize, no, it's too much work. But some will like start spearheading towards that. So it's interesting. It's really interesting.
How do you broach the subject if you have a consult with someone and you look at their physique and genetically maybe they're not going to go too far, but they think that they can, maybe they've been told before?
So I kind of sway it. This is what Martin taught me, and I've kind of been doing it with people, but I'm definitely going to be doing it more with other people. But kind of swaying it more towards the reality of it without being too much of a dick about it. Because I used to just be a dick about it. I have in the past, I regret it, but I used to just be like, that's never happened. Like, just fucking hell, mate. Like, stop. Like, come on. Like, I want to go to the Olympia, and I'm like, have you competed? No, not yet. I'm like, what are you talking about? Then what I do now is I kind of broach that, but a lot nicer. So I just be like, look, like, let's try and win your class first at a show. Let's do a PCA one. Let's try and win your class there. If you win that, we'll talk about, and you go through to the overall and you look good in the overall, we'll talk about doing IFBB. And then we'll talk about doing IFBB pro qualifiers. All right. Then we'll talk about going abroad and doing IFBB pro qualifiers, like a tougher one, like a Spain or a Portugal or something like that, whatever, right? And we'll do that. Then once we've done those and we've ticked those boxes and we've, done all right there, and we'll start looking at pro cards, right? And once we've looked at pro cards, then we'll start looking at how can we get it, and we'll aim for it. But first, compete. I want you to do one. I want you to see how you look. And don't tell me you're going to put all the effort in the world in, because I don't like hearing it, because it's bullshit. Okay, because you don't know. You don't know if you're going to be able to put the effort in. I had a guy the other day who signed up, right? So, young lad, like 20 years old, something like that. Great potential, great physique, good little future ahead of him, whatever. Damn, mate, I'm just willing to do whatever it takes. I'm so invested in my bodybuilding at the moment. 2 weeks in, done. Nah, mate, it's too much for me. It's too much food. I just can't eat this much. Like, bye. Like, because if you don't, everyone thinks, oh, I've got what it takes. I know I have. I can work super hard. And I don't care how fucking hard you work in the gym. That's that percentage of like the problem. That's a small percentage. I want, can you commit to the sleep schedule? Can you afford what you're going to need to take? Can you eat enough to get to the level of development that you're going to need to? Can you suffer when it comes to dieting so that you're actually going to be able to get peeled enough? Or are you just a gym rat bodybuilder who thinks that Olympia is a piece of piss to get to and pro cards are handed out like candy? Because they might be handed out more. They are not easy to get at. So now I go, look, what have you done with competing so far? And they're like, I've done this, this, and this. And I'm like, how'd you do? I'm like, all right, let's focus on just winning this stuff first, all right? Let's focus on being one of the best in the UK. Once we've done that, we'll start talking about pro cards. I kind of broach it a bit more like that. I don't want to be a dick about it anymore.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's the fundamentals, right? So you spoke about sleep, eating, etc. Like, people don't, they can't tick the normal boxes because it's boring, but it's like, then you think you're just going to jump on PEDs and win the Olympia. It's fucking.
Well, that's it. Like, Tom must have the secret for how to get there. And I'm like, the secret is consistency. Yeah, I have some tricks, and yeah, I have some tricks of the trade to make things more comfortable. Yeah, I have some tricks that other people don't have that will be able to benefit you to a level of development that's going to help you, get to where you need to get to. But I don't come round and shove the meals in your face. I don't come round and cook your meals. I don't call you every hour and go, come on, time to eat. Like, I don't, I'm that's not me. Like, you want to do it, do it. I'll tell you how to do it. If you can't do it, can't do it. Like, but I'll tell you how to get there. Whether or not you are able to get there is genetically dependent, but also like, have you actually got the ability to put the time in? Like the ability to put the time in at the dinner table, and have you got the ability to, make sure you're getting enough sleep? Are you partying every weekend, going out on the piss with your mates? Are you, are you able to afford bodybuilding? Like, are you working enough? Have you got a good enough job that it's, are you just scraping together pennies? Because that's not how it's done. It's hard. It's an expensive sport.
Well, it is, and also, if you are going from amateur to pro league,
yeah.
There is commonalities for sure with the fundamentals,
yeah,
etc.
Absolutely.
It becomes, a bit more relevant on so meal timings, macro splits, etc., etc.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, that movement from amateur up to pro development at a pro level, competing, like, one of the similarities. Well, it's all bodybuilding in general. It's all the same thing. But the psychology that I have seen from people who turn pro is robotic, but they don't go on about the fact that they're robotic. They don't constantly tell everyone, like, no, I'm never miss my meals, I love it, because it's so fucking normal for them to be putting in this much effort. Because effort to them is not this, like, it's natural. It just comes. Like, it's just like, they don't sit there and go, oh, I've got to eat another meal. I really can't be bothered for this one. I'll just leave it for now. I'll just have my next one. They go, okay, cool, meal. But there isn't even any conscious decision, no thought process, no nothing that goes on, that the brain is blank. It is simply a case of, it is time to eat, and that is the time. Like, that's it. See, that's with food. With let's say, okay, here's a good example, because this will be a bit of shocking to people. Say I say to someone, I'm like, listen, man, I think we're going to need to increase your growth hormone or your primobolan dosage, right? That's a little bit more expensive. So, okay, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to afford that. I'm like, okay, what do you want to do then? And like, okay, well, let me pick up an extra shift. Let me look at what I can do in terms of some extra work or something. I'll go do some extra work with my dad on the weekend. He's got a job for me to do over at his place, so I'll go do that, and that should pay for the bottles that I need for this week or the extra kit. Okay, are you sure? Yeah, no, I need to do that, so that's fine. That's the mindset of an amateur who wants to go pro, rather than, I can't do it, it's not possible, I can't afford it. It's, let me try and find a way. And I'll bridge that space if I'm able to do so. If the space is just far too far, and that's that, then I can't do it. And that's okay, but at least I'm trying to make my base on there somehow. It's a difference between that, and that sounds like I'm telling someone to take something that's too expensive. I'm not. What I'm doing is, I'm still being mindful about a budget, and I'm still mindful about things as a coach. If there is genuinely something that I feel is going to be the difference between turning pro and not, you need to be able to go, I think I should be able to find a way to do that, rather than, if you can't, I'll go, safe man, we'll find another way, right? But I want you to, that gap, that's pro level thinking. It's like, this means everything to me thinking, rather than amateur thinking of, no, that's not possible. There's different thought processes. There's different people that do it and people that don't, Like, I like competing, and I like bodybuilding myself and everything. If I was to compete again, I'm sure I'd have a great time doing it. But, if my little boy wanted me to, fucking, I don't know, have a meal with him in the evening or something like that, right? What I'd do is I'd macro swap some stuff around. So I was eating all my protein mainly throughout the day, and then I'd sit there and I'd eat a very small portion of whatever he wanted to sort of have with me at that time, right? And my calories and my macros would probably still be all right. My fat might be slightly up, my carbs might be slightly down, my protein would be ticked, my steps would still be done, my carb would be done. So there is one thing that's a little bit off, but that for me is perfectly fine. For a pro, that isn't even a question, okay? And that sounds like making them out to be like a cunt, like a dickhead, but they're not. They're being someone who's truly focused towards a goal, whereas my goal is far more, there's wiggle room within it, right?
Yeah,
so,
and people say, oh, it's selfish, don't they? And, you know, that used to hit me. And then I was realizing this is partly because the people that are telling me that I'm being selfish, or can I not do this? Can I not do that? Or pressurizing me, because they're never going to do it. And a lot of it is from a place of jealousy. And, you know, like you say, professional athletes just do the do. They do not want to be bothered by external people that don't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether and your situation as well, like how you put yourself into a certain situation of giving yourself the ability to not be bothered is really, really important too. This is making it me sound like all people who want to turn pro are just like reclusive dickheads, but they're not. But they are treating their life like a professional athlete, or with the intention of moving forward to professional status, rather than someone who is bodybuilding for a hobby. And don't get me wrong, bodybuilding for a hobby is mint. And if you can do that and you can still do well, I love it. It's really cool. And most of bodybuilding is made up by amateurs. It's not made up by pros. So let's look at that. Now, you as a competitor, if you're going for a show, I'm not expecting you to be slop with your staff, like the way that you go about things, but once a week, once every 2 weeks, if something isn't quite where it needed to be because of a certain family situation or what, I'm very like, yeah, cool, whatever. Even with my pros, I would be understanding, but I just never hear it from my pros.
Yeah, it's so true.
I hear it. I just never. Wait to find a way. Like the people go to a wedding, oh, I'm going to have the meal, but I'm going to take out 2 meals. A pro would go, no, I'm just taking my food with me.
For sure, and it's in the handbag.
Yeah. It's in a handbag, take it out. Or it's stick it in the car in the cool bag, and my missus is going to let me go grab it, and she'll just chat with people whilst I go and eat in the car, and then I'll come back.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not going to have a drink, I'll just have a Diet Coke. I'm like, okay, if you're sure, like, do you not want to just like go? And I'm like, no. Like, because because they don't find enjoyment in the social situations as much as they find enjoyment within the development of their own physique and their own look. And that is, for me, as a bodybuilding coach, I understand it, but I wouldn't want to do it myself. Now, I can tell them how to go about things and whatever, and they know that they need to do that sort of thing. I personally, as a human being, I'm not going to take that approach to my own bodybuilding, because quite frankly, the little bronze medal at the PCA British finals doesn't mean that much. It doesn't. But like to them, the big orange or green card that says IFBB Pro, that matters.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, as well, we could talk about relationships around this, because when me and my partner got together, you know, I absolutely love bodybuilding. I love being robotic. I've had to learn what I enjoy in life outside bodybuilding. And that's difficult for me, not the bodybuilding. And he's different in that regard. So we've really had to communicate that. And he's like, you know, I'm not going to do it to the level you want to do it. And that's cool, but it can affect relationships, right?
I think it can do, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm in a position now where the lady that I'm seeing, the girlfriend that I've got, she trains and she goes to the gym. She eats relatively well, but she doesn't have any intention of competing. Now, that for me is fantastic, because I don't want to be with someone who competes, because it's so much of my life already that I wouldn't be able to deal with just another, you know, because it's like clients and mates and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. It's just too much of it. And, you know, like I you know, want to be able to go to a nice restaurant or something, you know, like a couple times a week. I want to be able to, you know, whatever, go for a weekend away or anything like that. And you know, it's the same thing. You know, like if I was a competitor and I was like full on competing and gunning it and going for it, I'm sure she'd be very understanding of it, but I don't think she would have as nice a time in the relationship as could do. So, you know, you kind of have to realize, like if she was like training and competing as well, and she kind of got it, like because she did it as well, and we were like on and off, like she'd be competing, then I'd be, then like whatever. That relationship definitely can work. It really can. But sometimes when bodybuilding is all you've known and all you've done for so long, it can be a bit like, oh fuck, not more of it. Like, you know, you do need a break. You need people. I think people will benefit who aren't going to go all the way. Will benefit from not being like one-dimensional, like having more about them. You don't want to go to a dinner party and all you can talk about is bodybuilding. Like, it's fucking like boring. Like, I'd like to talk about like business with people. I'd like to talk about like, you know, interesting subjects of, you know, like what's going on in the world and politics and, you know, artwork and you know, like other people's jobs and what they do for a living and, you know, their families and stuff. And I want to talk about that and I want to be interested in that. I don't want to just go in there and go, oh, yeah, I'm a bodybuilding coach. Oh, cool. And then I'm just blabbing on about bodybuilding. It's fucking dull for some people, that, you know. So it's good to have, I think it's good as a person to have a little bit more about you. Don't be one dimensional. It's just like because you'll get like 10 years down the line and, you know, 20 years down the line and you're not the same physique that you once had, and it's like, mate, like you've missed out on it.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, I found, you know, I got divorced from my husband. I competed for like 10 years whilst with him, and it was a very unhappy marriage. And I funneled everything into bodybuilding, and I've gained success in the sport. But I was literally living on, it was a solo endeavor, and he was sort of like along for the ride, but we were so different, and that didn't.
Yeah.
But I can see how, you know, my last prep, I dug real hard and got pretty peeled, but Matt found it hard to watch me literally, like, you know, how far I went as a partner. And I never considered that before because I didn't have that care in my previous
Yeah,
relationship.
that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. I think towards the back end of the prep, it really is. It can be testing on both parties, but you know, if you understand it and you get it, at least at least there's a bit of a buffer there. For me as an individual, I don't think I could be with someone who is prepping again, because it would be just another piece of work for me to do. Because chances are they'd be asking me to help them. Chances are I'd be prepping them in my house at the same time, or in a house. And you know, and I'm like every day I'm like looking at the same physique and I'm going, you look exactly the same as yesterday. Like, so
It's hard one. It's a really hard one. I think, like I said, learning to like enjoy something outside of bodybuilding, that's what I found really difficult, because I'm literally obsessed with bodybuilding. I absolutely love it, and you know, there's like no negatives to it to me, but trying to be with someone and sort of, it's not even compromise. It's like, this is my non-negotiables, this is your non-negotiables, and then we have the non-negotiables together. But it takes a lot of communication.
I think so, yeah. And I think you know, if you're going for, if you're say you were shooting for a like IFBB pro status and all that sort of stuff and whatever, like, you know, top level competitor sort of thing, your partner would kind of have to realize that that's a big chunk of your life now dedicated to that. But the payoff will be hopefully worth the time and the effort going into it. It's just dependent, isn't it? For me, I mean, I have a few hobbies and stuff outside of bodybuilding, really.
I know what one of them is, because Matt told me. Is it Warhammer?
Yeah. I've actually got a box here, weirdly enough. Yeah.
He's like,
he's into it too, isn't he, as well? Yeah. For me, it's kind of weird because you're so fucking far from bodybuilding. I'm sitting there, you know, cutting and painting and sticking stuff together and building these little models and things and everything. And it's just a chill. My brain goes like blank when I do it. It like completely. I'm not worrying about so and so's refeed or so and so's prep or whatever. Right? It's just nice. Like, yeah, interesting.
So that's
interesting.
like your hobby, and that's you being able to switch off.
Yeah, I've got that, and you know, I like my gaming as well. I like my PlayStation and playing some games and stuff like that. I also like I like going. For me, I like, you know, people go like, oh, I'm a foodie.
Yeah.
And they're not, because they eat Domino's pizza, and I'm like, foodie. I'm like, you fucking not. Yeah. No, I'm an actual like proper like go to a Michelin star place foodie. Like if I'm going somewhere, I'll go somewhere like, you know, if we're going for, you know, and I'm not going there to you know, I'm there to try this amazing food and stuff like that, and like, oh my god, how did they make this and this and whatever, you know, like like really big foodie, not like junk food foodie, like people are like, oh, I went to this great burger place, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's cool, but I want to go to a place where they serve a 9, 10, 12 course tasting menu, and I'm eating, you know, 4 fish courses, 2 beef courses, you know, all this sort of shit, like, you know, really nice stuff. So I'm like that. Like, that's definitely one of my hobbies. I don't get to do it all the time because it's bloody expensive to go to a really good place, but one of those, isn't it? You know, hobbies are expensive.
Yeah, I mean, are you not one of those coaches that has a Lamborghini outside?
I don't have a Lamborghini. I have a Tesla. I have a Model S. Sorry, I'm trying. No, I don't really want one. So I'm not really into my cars like that. Like, I know Christian's got a McLaren, hasn't he? And a few of my mates have got some nice stuff. But for me, I'm never really super into cars. Like my Tesla's good fun. It's fucking quick. But I need something that can fit my little boy in the back as well. And like, if I go on holiday, like I want suitcases in the back as well. So I don't want to be able to like, you know what I mean? Like he wouldn't be able to go. Yeah. Like I've got like suitcases piled over me and someone else is in the car behind me. Like, you know, it's pretty shit, isn't it? So
when you talk about food and what you'd class as a palate experience, I'm exactly the same as you. Now, it took me a while to get that with post-show, etc. I'd like to hear your sort of...
Yeah, post-show you just want to eat shit, and you like post-show is just fat and salt, like in the like.
Yeah, is there a difference you've noticed between pros and amateurs on how they treat post-show, or not really?
Post-show? Yeah, I think. Oh, this is going to come across super misogynistic, but it's not. I just work with loads of women, so I get it. Like women struggle way more. They struggle so much more. Psychologically and hormonally, it's predisposed and pre-designed into the female brain to have more body fat than normal. And you know, your body wants to be fat. It doesn't like being in a position where it has low levels of body fat. It is just your body's way of saying, hey, you want to have kids? Like, this is how we do it. Like, we need body fat. And that's your brain's predisposed built-in genetic response to being lean. It will go, fuck this. So that's why it's... So blokes have the gift of being able to stay on a good bit of a cycle post-show. So some testosterone, some T3, T4, some masteron perhaps, or something, or whatever, even tapering out their clan and things like that and whatever. Blokes are more resilient to just side effects of general gear. And they have the benefit of being able to just like taper that down over 6 to 8 weeks, then into TRT, rather than a lady who cannot just keep popping Anavar and Primo and T3 and T4 and slowly build the calories up. Like this, you just can't do that. You just fuck yourself up horrendously and you just end up with a beard. But like you need to, yeah, there's differences between the two. But I think pros post-show, generally because they've competed a lot more, like, okay, I've been here, I know what's coming, I know what this feels like. Whereas like amateurs are obviously sometimes a lot more new to it, and they're like, oh fuck, what is this? I just can't stop thinking about food. You know, like there's ways to manage it, but it's one of those. It's difficult.
Yeah, and it's different every time, isn't it? Like I guess as well, you know, I try and talk to clients about what the reverse out will look like, what it's going to maybe feel like, but you can't really with a first timer.
As a coach, I find that with anyone, with any amateur or pro, usually just amateurs, but pros sometimes as well, it's like trying to grab hold of them whilst you've got butter on your hands. You can do it. You can be like, come on, come up to your diet. Come on, what are you doing? And they're sleeping out, and you've got a bit of grip on them, and you put them on, and you've gone again. It's like that. It's like you're trying really hard to, come on, mate, just stop eating the fucking Domino's pizzas. Oh yeah, okay, I'll stop for like 5 days, and then I'm back to it, you know. And you kind of have a grip on them, but it's fucking spare, and it's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do. You try and you put the effort in, and do not feel bad if you are not able to keep a grip on them. They will probably blame you. Oh, there's just my coach didn't give me support post-show. Mate, if you can't take the bagel out your mouth, I can't do it for you, can I? I'm not going to come over and no bagels for you. Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, you can't. You don't ever feel bad. If anybody with coaches listen, if your client fucks it post-show and you've been really giving them due diligence and attention and care, and you've been putting the time and effort in and giving them the program, and they're the ones still fucking it, then, and they're blaming you, you're not to blame. You're not to blame. That's them being a narcissist and being like, it couldn't possibly be me who's in the wrong. That's them being of that mindset. No, it couldn't possibly be me. It's got to be my coach. They're not giving me enough support. And it's like, no, you're just being you're being a pig. That's okay. Because like, it's hard. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's not your coach's fault. It's your fault. Like,
it's a two-way street as well, isn't it? There can be like blaming the client, blaming the coach, and there's instances for both of those, especially on like social.
Yeah, absolutely. But realistically, at the end of the day, you are there to advise them and to give them information to work with and programs to follow, macronutrient setups, protein, you know, whatever. You cannot be there and stop in person and go, look, come on, stop. Let's go for a walk and let's chill out. You don't need this. Like, you know, you can't be there to do that. So, as the coach, you are trying to grab hold of them with butter on your hands. It's just, you're doing what you can, but if you slip out, they slip out, you can't do it. So
I'd like to ask you actually. I've just thought, what do you do if someone doesn't check in?
at all.
Yeah, if people just don't check.
Depends on where they're at. If they're on a prep and they're like renowned for doing it and renowned for checking in on time, I'd usually message them and go, "What's going on here? Like, why haven't you checked in?" But off season, if they haven't checked in, I'm going to check it on them.
Yeah.
That's up to them.
Yeah.
They pay my fee. They pay for the check-in and they pay to whatever. But in rare circumstances, I'll be like, "Hang on a minute." I'm like, "Why haven't they?" And I'll check up on them. And usually it's the case of, look, I was going to get it all over to you later on this afternoon. I've done the photos. I'm just super busy this morning. I'm like, safe, no worries. But in most circumstances, yeah, I don't really have, like, this is so fucking silly. You can charge quite a lot. Like, people want to make advantage, like, take use of that.
Yeah.
Like, people want to work with me, and that's cool. Like, so I want to make sure I'm giving that service and stuff, but I'm not going to run them down and go, "Come on, where are you?" Like, so.
And if you're asking questions, say we're in a prep and digestion questions or something that's maybe of a nature that do you ever get pushed back and people don't want to answer your questions, or not really because of what you've just said?
No, because I'm tact about the way that I do it. Yeah, I'm tact about the way. If someone's not like losing weight or something, not getting leaner, and then like I know that they're fucking on the plan. If I know it, because I know, I never don't know. I always, of course, I fucking know. I've been in bodybuilding 15 years. Of course, I fucking know when someone's like cheating on the diet. So I'll go, "Hey, has anything like happened this week that we need to know about? Like, what's going on here? Like, because you're not dropping, so something's up." And then they go, no, nothing, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm like, well, that's your first warning, sort of thing. Like, I'm not saying it's a warning, but I'm like, the next week, what I'll do is if the same shit's happened again, I'll go and they'll give me some bullshit. I'll be like, "Look, I'm not going to say," I usually say this. I say, "I'm not going to say it. You don't need to answer it. But we both know you're not sticking to what you're supposed to be doing here. All right? You're on 100 gram of carb." Yeah. I'm like, I'll just say, you're not going to answer this question. I'm not gonna be rejected by you about you saying that this is bullshit or something like that. I had it with a lady ages ago. I can't remember her name. Actually, I shouldn't say her name anyway. But she was a muppet. She was like, "Oh no, I'm not. I promise I'm sticking to it." Blah blah blah. 4 or 5 weeks on the trot, and she's not getting any better. Staying the same body weight, not looking leaner, not whatever. 5th week, I had sent her this same sort of message, and I got a bit more sort of informal and be like, "Look, maybe this is just not for you. Maybe bodybuilding is not for you because you're not sticking to the plan, are you? Okay, and as much as I'd love to help you, I can't help someone who's paying me, but they're not doing what I'm saying to do." And I think that struck a chord. Because what she did was, okay, well, what I end up doing is like I'm eating, because I'm so busy in the day, I'm eating less in the day, and then I'm trying to calorie track in the evening, and maybe sometimes I am going over, and then I message back like, "You're going over every single night. Stop BSing me. Your weight's gone up. This is just silly. Can you just stop lying?" Like, and then I got a bit ratty with her, and then she was just like, "Yeah, no, you're right, whatever." And then eventually she quit because bodybuilding's just not for her. But like, you have to be as patient as you can be until someone's blunt, until someone's like bullshitting you to the point where it's rude, and then you have a bit of a pop. Yeah,
It's a difficult scenario as a coach, if you do.
Yeah, but like I think a lot of people are more monetary focused about just stringing them along on the pay train, whereas like I don't care. Like I don't care about money. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I have goals that I'd love to hit in terms of my business sort of stuff, but not just from coaching, just business things in general. Whereas like I don't give a shit. Like I would rather you as a client leave than my name be spoiled by a bad client on stage. And I put up with it. Not last year, the year before, and it was fucking stupid of me because I shouldn't have. Because there was one guy who did it and turned up on stage looking like shit, and I'm like, afterwards, I just told him, I was like, "Look, man, you ain't done what I told you to do. Like, let's just pull the plug here, Because as a coach, your name is important, super important, right? Your bank balance won't mean shit at the end of the day. What matters is the legacy as a coach you begin to build for yourself. Like, it just is. It's just one of those things.
And do you have anyone question like if you send the food plan or whatever and people question, or do you try and have like an open communication? How do you sort of?
In what regard?
So if you delivered the food plan to someone and they were like, oh, you know, I don't really want to have that, I want to have that, or move.
So with my plan, it's usually like a set plan, but with macros attached to the whole thing. So and macros per meal are included. So if you want to change it, change it. But as long as it fits within the macros and the caloric requirements there. If it doesn't, then no, that's not how it works. But like, you know, like if you wanna like, oh, I'm really sick of bagels, can I swap it for some cream of rice? Yeah, cool, man. No worries. Or like, oh, I'm sick of fucking beef. It's really dry. Can I have something else? Yeah, sure. Change it for some chicken, and we'll add some sesame oil to make up the fat content. Like, you know, like things like that. So it's more so just a conversation back and forth. Usually, yeah. But when you work with many competitors, they just suck it up, buttercup, and get on with it. Really, I think. You know, we're just kind of lucky.
I'll do whatever it takes.
Sorry.
I'll do whatever.
Yeah. If I have to eat gravel, I'll eat gravel. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess as well, it's sometimes reining in competitors rather than like having to
persuade. Yeah, a lot of the time you need to pull the tree back a bit. Like over cardio is a problem, overdoing fat burners is a problem, overdoing cardio, overdoing undereating, and not having a refeed. I don't feel like I need it. I'm still fat. You're not fat. You're fucking, you know, you're not fat. Stop. Healed out of your mind and you're flat as shit. Like we're 4 weeks out, you are refeeding, and that is that. Like that's that. Like you need stop it. So you know, yeah, you kind of get that. Like that's cool. Like to work with because it's easier to manage. But underworking is like just like. I have no respect for underworking. I have respect for overworking because I'm the same. But yeah, I have no respect for underworking. So I don't really, it's harder to work with because I just don't get it. You know? Yeah.
I guess like excuses and things that may sit to you, it's like, what do you mean? Do you know?
The only excuse from me that watches is family, if it's a legitimate issue. I had a dude last year whose little girl got sick, not sick, but just like a bit rough or whatever. And and I said, hey man, I said, don't know about it. I said, just do what you can with food. I was like, do what you can with food. Take your meals with you if you can. If you can't, just try and stay empty. But if you need to go eat something, you need to go eat something. And I was like, I jokingly said, Snickers bars have protein from the vending machine, so have one of them. And he basically was just, I think he just stayed empty for the entire time. But I was like, no, you could have eaten something. It's not the end of the world. And he was like, I was like, your family comes first. And he was like, no, thank you, I get it. Like, family comes first over bodybuilding, absolutely 100%, of course it does, especially your kids. But like, bullshit excuses don't really wash too much with me. I'm a bit stressed out, so we're an entire cheesecake. Mate, fuck off, bye-bye. Here's your last payment from Go-Kart, let's back and fucking do one. Like,
well, there's big differences as well. Matt's just had a client finish a photo shoot prep, and he's sick condition for a photo shoot, and he actually lost his unborn child in the photo shoot prep, and it made him work harder. He's a different mindset. It was like, I'm going to do her proud. And she died, and
yeah. I've got a guy whose daughter passed away, but basically, like, the dad wasn't in the picture. He was basically her dad anyway, you know, for all intensive purposes. And her favorite color was pink, and he wants to go on stage with some dark pink trunks because he wants to do it for her and wants to prove her proud. And I'm like, and for me, firstly, struck a chord very nicely. Well done there, dude. But also, I'm like, fuck yeah. Like when you're sitting there on a fucking Stairmaster and you're like 5 minutes to go and you go, oh, maybe I'll just skip this 5. That ain't gonna go out of your head. Like, you know, and that's cool. Like everyone has like different motivating factors. And I mean, leading back to our topic of like amateur to pro level, motivating factors I think are a huge important thing. You know, and they can be bad, they can be negative or positive. And I think either way, the way that you spin it in your mind is what matters. For me as a coach, my factor, and he won't mind me saying this because me and him have joked about it now, but my motivating factor was a chap called Aaron Hudson, who basically had I was trying to make my name as a coach. I was very much an uneducated sort of, like, not really knowing what I was saying. And his words to me were something along the lines of, listen, Tom, he says, you're a shit bodybuilder, you're a shit coach, but you're a lovely guy. Like, it was like, so, you know, like, just like you said something like you posting here and saying that you're a coach in this forum is just making you like look like an idiot. And that like fucking screwed, like something screwed in my head, like nailed, like, okay, I'm just gonna fucking shut you up. So I go with him now. Actually, it's really funny. Like he's all right. I know why he was sort of saying it and everything, but like now, like, you know, he didn't go about it the right way. But he's even jokingly said, like, I kind of made him like eat that shit sandwich, like, do you know what I mean? Like, and here's it back, like, you know. So, you know, I that was in my head, like, prove him wrong, prove everyone else wrong, and that's a negative thing because I'm using negativity to influence my positive behavior. Whereas some people have the positivity of everyone's believing in me, everyone's doing this, so then I'm going to use that to make it positive in my own life. You can turn negative into positive with the right mindset. It's not the healthiest thing in the world to do, but it does work. But then also, like, positive into positive also works beautifully. So I kind of find that it's like that chain of it, that chain of thought. Whereas, like, if my brothers and my mum and dad and whatever were saying, go on, Tom, like, you've got to do this show, you've got to bring the best look you possibly can, all that's going to turn in my head is, yeah, absolutely, I'm not letting my family down. If they're coming to watch me, I'm going to be the best I can be on that stage. Whereas if I had people in the gym going, mate, what are you doing, wasting your time at this show? You know, you're fucking, like, you know. And if people have that, my clients have that negative input from people, I'll tell them, so prove them fucking wrong. Use it as a good point. Use it as a point. Like, I'm going to be there watching you, and I'm going to be cheering. Don't make me cheer for someone who's getting third call-outs. You're there to, you know, like, they're saying bullshit about you. We're there to prove them wrong. So it's one of those things. Like, I think as a group of bodybuilders, obviously, you know, psychologically, it's a tough sport, but I think you need to look at what motivates you as an individual. And to get, like, this is, again, back to the amateur to pro point. How are you going to carry that motivation all the way through your career? Is there one thing that was said that just will not go out of your head, or is there positive influences constantly on you, and it's going to help you get towards the point that you're trying to get to? So,
yeah, for sure. I'd also like to ask you, so a lot goes around on social media and things with coaches and how, you know, if someone has not been judged, maybe how the coach believes they should have been judged, etc., etc. Now, I always try and say, speak with your coach, look back at photos, etc., etc., and, you know, be a good sportsman on stage. Now, you see sort of not what we came for or whatever. How do you sort of deal with that if you feel the place?
I'm not the best at that. There's a few instances where I look back and I'm quite embarrassed about the way that I've acted after. I don't post anything on social media apart from one time where I have done, where I did it as a bit of a joke. But I don't post about it on social media if I'm not happy with a certain judging call. I kind of just take it on the chin and move forward with it. But it's one of those things where, yeah, I take it on the chin and I move forward and I accept that that is part of the situation and part of bodybuilding, and you cannot decide who judges you. There's a couple of instances where I know for a fact a client has been genuinely hard done by for a certain political situation. Not mentioning any names.
But it happens. It actually does happen.
No, not mentioning any real deal names. We kind of just move forward with it, and we kind of just accept that that's part of it, and we do what we can. But yeah, I always tell clients, you've got 24 hours to complain about it. You've got 24 hours. After that, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it anymore. You've got 24 hours. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to get back to the drawing board. We're going to do another show in 2 weeks' time, and you're going to get judged by different judges. And you're going to take what information we know, and then what we know is we're then going to extrapolate that and work from there. And that's all that we're going to do.
Try and maintain that sort of, sportsmanship. Champion mindset.
Champion mindset. Yeah, champion mindset. Mindset of it's not over yet. And, you know, careers in bodybuilding aren't built on one loss. They are built on a multitude of wins. So if something's not gone right for whatever reason, then we need to work out why, and we need to change that leading forward. We don't need to look at it as a negative. We need to look at it as a learning experience. That's more so what amateurs who want to be pros should do. They shouldn't look at the placing. I always say this to clients, and like they're like, "You want me to do IFBB?" And I'm like, "I want you to test yourself. I want you to test yourself against the best, okay? Because only then you know how far you are off the best. Like if you go to an amateur show, you go to a fucking like a peewee little rubbishy. Oh, I don't want to say any brand names, but to a show that's in the north a lot of the time, and they don't have a lot of high-level competitors and whatever, and you compete with them, and you go and compete there, and you beat 2 crap bodybuilders who haven't really prepped or tried hard. You don't know how good you are as a competitor. All you know is that you beat 2 bodybuilders who weren't very good. You need to go against the best if you want to continuously improve. If you constantly just trophy hunt and do shitty little shows, all you pick up is gold medals and overall swords that mean nothing. They don't mean anything. You need to do ones that matter so that you can get judged properly against people. That's what matters.
I myself, when there's like, you know, 30 girls. I'm like, yes, this is going to be sick. And I think that's maybe a mindset that people want.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't, like, if I want my like, if you can beat 12, like here's a good one, right? Jack Eagles, Jack this year. Jack beat every single bodybuilder in 𝗧𝗺 at that show, amateur Olympic, basically an amateur Olympic. There's like 2 pro cards been given out. He beat, his class had something like 20 people in it, and it was stacked. It was stacked to the teeth. The class below him was good. The class above him, C and D, were both good. He absolutely smashed it. Then, following that, he went and did the overall, obviously, and then won the overall and beat them all. Them. That is testing yourself against a good level of competitor. And at whatever age he was like 20, 21. Like, to do that at that age, that now means that we now solidified where he's going to be going forward. So he knows what he needs to do. So now, okay, you're going to be a top pro. That's just a thing in the future, but you still have to work towards it. And you're going to be working towards that for the next however many years. You just have to do it. You just have to test yourself against skills. Like, 𝗧 has never gone up in a lineup less than 20 girls, 20 women in women's physique pros. She's done 3 shows as a women's physique pro.
Yeah.
3. All of them have been over 20 women. 18 to 20, if not more. So she's literally going up against hordes of them. Now, every single time she got 4th, 3rd, and a 2nd, I think. Yeah, 4th, 3rd, and a 2nd. Now, she knows that she's one of the best in the world. She's not got to the Olympia stage yet, but she is going to at some point this year. But that just means that she's testing herself. You have to constantly do that as an amateur. If you don't, you'll never get better.
What was it like when you
first... as well, and sometimes you lose. Sometimes you fucking get spanked. Sometimes you are in the second call-outs on the edge. Sometimes that happens. But now you know, nowhere near. I've got another 2 years of growing before I can go up against these boys. I was 240 on stage. I need to be 260. So cool. So go do it. You know?
When you first started working with 𝗧, were you like, this could go pretty far?
She was natty when I worked with her, and we were planning to do like UK DFBA, the women's bodybuilding class then. If she'd done that, she'd have won the British class, like piece of piss. Like, it wouldn't even been a contest. And then she's done, what's she done since? Like we did that. We did PCA, did the first prep. I was like, it's just ridiculous. Won the overall with London, then left, and then the PCA British. Then left that, went to go do IFBB, won that, then won the British. So yeah, like I mean, I knew that she had the genetics to be something crazy in the sport. She's also got the mindset. She's also a robot. She just doesn't. There isn't really a day she misses food or messes up food. There isn't really like training session where she doesn't give 100%. She doesn't miss a beat. So for her as a bodybuilder, like her life being like around it. Like, yeah, it's all like set in stone. So
yeah, and before we wrap up today, 2 things.
Yeah.
Of course, you've collabed with Emma, and that's where I started seeing you and reached out.
Yeah.
The importance of posing. Can you just confirm for me before?
Oh
you go?
God, yeah. Jesus Christ, yeah. Do you know what I find it is? It's not just the poses that you hit. It's the transitioning between poses and your comfortable sort of nature on stage. So if you're not comfortable on stage moving around and fluidly moving from one pose to another, you look robotic. And as an amateur, you will stick out like a sore thumb if you are, in a good way, if you are nailing your posing. And you'll stick out because you will just be smooth on stage. And it's just nice to see rather than someone who's like robotic and like looks like shit, basically. So, yeah, side chest.
I'm sure you're the same. Like, you know, when you start out though, even when Emma came on the pod, she admitted it. Like when you do first show, I'm sure you're the same. You're like, what the fuck am I doing on it? Emma was like walking around like, I don't know what the fucking hell I'm doing.
Yeah, it can happen.
So to wrap up, the last thing, Tom, is a listener question. So I thought this would be a pretty good one for you. So the Instagram handle is 𝗧𝗺. How do you choose and work with a coach? What questions to ask and what to say in check-in? So I expanded on this a bit with her, and she wasn't sure if she was coachable because she'd had a couple of bad coaching experiences because she likes to ask questions. So I guess sort of levels to that as to
They're
how.
absolutely fine, provided that they're done in a very clear and concise manner, and they're not just like brain dumps. Like, I think if you're concisely asking a certain specific subject, that's a good thing to do. But if you're constantly putting forward ideas to your coach about like certain things, I don't think that's very good. Like, so I've got 𝗧𝗵𝗲 who's a buddy of mine, like overseeing like what I'm doing, like I'm just tidying up a bit. I just need someone to be accountable to. So what I did was I said to him, I was like, hey man, in the off season, are we all right to push growth hormone a little bit heavier? I said, I can get whatever we really need for that. And he was like, yeah. He says, I normally do about 6 IUs. And I said, I could probably do about 8. I said, or 10. I said, tell me like, what you think of that. And he was like, oh, let's just see, let's start there and sort of kind of work our way up. I think that's pretty much what he said. I think, yeah. And I was just like, yes, Sam. So like, that's me having a conversation with him about like putting forward an idea, him going, yeah, not bad, but let's rein it back a bit. And we go, safe, I'll just do what you tell me to do. It's fine. So that's fine. Like, I think one of those things is like just understanding that the coach is a person too, and you need to just have a conversation with them. Don't try and search for an answer from them that you want to hear. Just try and accept that, because if you're asking that, it's not a question. You're just trying to tell them you want to do something. But if you want to just go like, hey, I'm really curious about this. Is this something that we could try? And then if they explain it to you in detail, safe. That's good. Like, as for check-ins and stuff, I mean, I've got like a check-in sheet that I usually use with people, or like a check-in, I think the coach really should have something like that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I agree totally. And obviously each coach has a different way of doing it, right? So there's like sheets or kahunas or whatever it is.
Were you surprised at the growth hormone thing?
Were
you surprised at the growth hormone thing?
Yeah.
Oh, 10 units, yeah. There's previous Mr. Olympia whose words about growth hormone were use as much as you can afford.
I actually love, it's my favorite PED. I love growth hormone. Absolutely. Yep. But it's so expensive.
It is pricey. So yeah, I mean, I've used 20 units a day in the past. I've used 18. I used
absolute legend.
Yeah. I think 10 to 12 is probably fine. Any more than that doesn't really, for me, do a lot more. I would like to try and titrate upwards on it and see what I can get to before I realise that it just doesn't really do a lot more. No, you've heard my gear stuff's silly. My previous gear stuff's really silly. I've done loads of experiments, stupid shit. That's how I know not to do that with clients. It's like fucking tough. Yeah.
Hey, I had Tony Huge on the pod.
Well, yeah, Tony's stuff's mad. Tony's like off his chain, yeah.
We're going to live where he lives in Thailand in a couple of months, and he's doing like a female class. And I'm like, Tony, should I be an experiment for you?
The guy that he used to do stuff with, that coach Trevor, he was interesting. He was really interesting. Coach Trevor, yeah, I remember watching his stuff, and I was like, oh, this guy does some mad shit. Yeah, I remember him talking about, was it like 12 grams of gear a week or something that he took? Like, Trevor, but he was like doing it as like an experiment, like a Dan Duchesne sort of like, because apparently in studies, the equivalent dosages, I think to rats or mice or something, was shown to open up like a different path of like anabolism rather than just working on the same sort of, but I don't think it does. I don't think it does in any way. I don't think anything like that would. I think you just get very, very sick on the dosages like that. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I always find, stuff like what Tony does, he actually puts some pretty good YouTube about like even how to pin and stuff like that. Because when you go down the assisted route, like the first time I pinned, I said to my coach, can you do it for me? I don't really know what I'm doing. So there is some education behind it as well.
Yeah, there's definitely education that needs to be there. Yeah. My favorite Tony Huge thing was his deposition. Was it deposition? Have you watched it? Someone, the lawyer's asking him, and he just pleads the fifth for everything. Have you watched it? No. I look it up. It's like Tony Hughes, and it's like the American like lawyers in there, and basically they just ask him questions, and he just goes, "I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth." And he just does that for like the fucking whole thing. It's like an hour of him like just like refusing to answer the questions. It's brilliant.
He's so wild. The one thing I found from podding with him, and I talked to him as well, is he's so authentic to what he believes in. Now, not everyone's going to agree with what he believes in, but he's really authentic to himself, which is super.
Yeah. I like that. I like that when people are like that. I like it when they're very much like, yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. Anyway, I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. So, obviously, if anyone wants to look at you on Instagram, hit up.
Yeah, so I'm 𝗧𝗵𝗍_training. Feel free to drop me a message if you'd like to be coached by myself or any of the teams. So I've got Johnny, Sarah, Ben, and Henry who work for me as coaches on the evolution training sort of team. Feel free to drop me a message and I can put you in contact with them. If you want to be coached by me specifically, there is usually a waiting list, and I am quite selective with who I work with, not due to me being like a dick, but just because my spaces are really limited. Like, I'd love to help everyone, but I can't give a level of service if I have too many people. So that's just kind of me being, you know, true with that. So thank you very much for having me on. Appreciate it massively.
You too, and I will speak to you soon.